Shabbat Shalom. Probably the rabbi whom I respect the most is someone who is very free inside of themselves, the way they live their lives, not the way we always imagine observant people to be. Someone who makes their own decisions and expresses ideas that you don't hear from anybody else. And they're not boxed in by the usual norms, but I just feel they're always free in themselves, and they speak from the heart, and their words really seem to come from the core of who they are. And they say what they think and not just what is acceptable or approved by others. And they even dress freely. It doesn't mean they dress in a very extroverted fashion, but in their own understated way. And they're not making a statement about a particular appearance or ideology. They're just being themselves. And I remember once talking to them about Torah, and they said to me, the whole purpose of Torah is to make us free. And often we think of Torah as the opposite, something that binds us, endless do's and don't do's, and a whole circumscribed behavior. But no, the Torah is really there to make us free, free to be who we really are. And a verse from Psalms, our soul is escaped like a bird out of the snare of the fowlers. The snare is broken and we are escaped. Our help is in the name of the Lord who made heaven and earth. Again, our image of a Torah is so often the opposite. And a few weeks ago, I was having a conversation with a group of religious school families after a meal, and we were discussing some of the intricacies of halakha, of Jewish law, in very observant communities, and we were talking about the minutiae of halachic details and the laws, actually a borer of selecting on Shabbat, and all the sub-laws that usually only the Orthodox follow, but also the whole system of halakha, how we do everything. And it feels sometimes as if it's trying to control every part of our lives. That's not really what it's meant to do or what it's still trying to do. Really, the purpose of it is to give us freedom. But nonetheless, it's not the type of freedom that we automatically think of when freedom. It's a slightly different kind of freedom that we have to work at. And so as we say, when God took us out of Egypt, God didn't just take us out of Egypt to be free as to do whatever we wanted, but there was some other kind of freedom we had to work at. And if the people had just left Egypt and suddenly just gone on, then we probably would have become enslaved to any other kind of thing and would have been forgotten and enslaved to other bondages. And so there's a midrash on the receiving of the Torah, morning's revelation, that when Moses was given the tablets of law, the Torah states, the writing on the two tablets was the writing of God, graven, in Hebrew is charut, upon the tablet. Then the Midrash comments, don't read it charut, graven, but cherut, free. Right, where, as we say on Passover, Tabanei chorin, now we're children of freedom. And so the Midrash is telling us that really the freedom wasn't when they left Egypt, and the freedom wasn't even when they crossed through the Red Sea, but the freedom only really began when they reached Mount Sinai and received the Torah and started to begin that work of engraving that true freedom on their hearts. And so the Talmud goes into this long conversation of what exactly is that freedom that the Torah gives us. And so first we have a Rabbi Nehemiah who gives an opinion. He says, well, the Torah gives us freedom from foreign rulers, How? Well, I think foreign rulers come to impose their will on other people or impose a culture, their culture on a whole group, a whole identity. But the Torah is a spiritual path with its complete own identity, our very own. And wherever we are, whatever we're doing, the Torah gives us a way to express a soul-felt identity, a Judaism, in a way that connects us to our soul. And that can override all the physical pressure of a foreign ruler or a culture that we don't want to take on. And then the Talmud presents the majority opinion of the rabbis, and it says the Torah gives us freedom from suffering. So I think the Torah cannot give us freedom from suffering completely, and we still are going to go through everything we go through. But it maybe can give us that higher perspective that lifts our minds above all that whirlwind of suffering and affliction that can be life in this world. And connecting us to those eternal ideals and values and ancient rituals, and that can ground our lives in a place that helps us to transcend the limitations of our own patterns of thinking and of being that sometimes enhance or even the source of all of our suffering, and has the power really to give us a completely different angle of the vision and to see ourselves and our lives differently from that different angle of vision. So the Talmudic passage then goes on to a third point by Rabbi Yehuda, and he says, well, the Torah frees us, this is the ultimate freedom, frees us from the grasp of the angel of death. So how does the Torah do that? Well, the Torah, in a very traditional way, gives us a path to immortality by connecting us to eternal values, but maybe also by widening our embrace in our hearts so that we're embracing more and more of the world until it encompasses the whole of the world. And then that, when we get to that place where we feel that the whole world is one with our heart, in that spiritual mystery, in that lofty place, where is death? We're all one in the heart. More than anything, the Torah perhaps gives us a way that transforms our lives by making us masters of our own destiny. And I remember a bunch of years ago, a bar mitzvah boy was talking about kashrut, and he said, well, of all the different reasons why we have kashrut, one that appealed to him, that it was a system of personal discipline. And so we think that being free is just doing whatever we want to do, but all this way of thinking and being, all of this helps us to actually uncover the deeper freedom of being who we really want to be. Maybe what brings all of these opinions of the Talmud together is that what the Torah does is give us a system for living life in a profound way. And through all of the customs and ordinances and laws and also the stories that we read every year, it teaches us how to live a little bit freer from all of those anxieties and worries and cravings that can enslave all of us in this world and its materialism. And it shows us how to be free of all the entanglements and rivalries and misunderstandings and jealousies and demands and expectations that bind us. And instructs us a little bit how to find some of that peace and love and joy into our lives. And offers a model for living in the knowledge that every one of us is created in the image of God, and to see other people in that way. So to conclude, several years ago, I saw this video of 1,000 people, musicians in the Caesarea amphitheater, singing and performing a music for the release of the hostages. And it was amazing to watch. They were just soaring with their music, completely soaring with it. And what I saw the most in their music and in their faces, and was just this deep yearning for the hostages to come home, labaita, and for Israelis to be able to live in just freedom and joy and peace, and to be able to freely live. And it made me so proud of our people, and it felt like a return to the beginning of the modern state, when the people were just striving to live by its highest ideals and morals and values, when all we wanted was just to be a free people living on our land and to be an exemplary nation, a light unto the nations and to ourselves. And it was watching them as if in that moment our souls had escaped all the bonds of 2,000 years of exile and everything else. So Proverbs 3:17 declares, her ways, the Torah, are ways of pleasantness, and all her paths are peace. And these are the beautiful ways of our people, that every year we come together to celebrate, to honor, as we did this morning, to read the Torah's narrative and the great divine revelation that took place in Mount Sinai 3,500 years ago, and how that revelation can bring every one of us and all of humanity eventually to freedom. Shabbat Shalom.